A year of unforeseen conflict. The world has witnessed a series of events that have reshaped the geopolitical landscape, leaving an indelible mark on history. The world watches as the Russia-Ukraine conflict continues to unfold. News outlets across the globe broadcast the latest developments, capturing the attention of millions. What began in February 2022 has become a protracted war. The initial invasion has spiraled into a complex and enduring conflict, with no clear resolution in sight. The conflict has shaken the very foundations of global security. World leaders convene in urgent summits, seeking solutions to a crisis that threatens international stability. Both sides remain locked in a bitter struggle. The fighting is fierce, with each side determined to gain the upper hand, resulting in devastating consequences. There is no end in sight. The landscapes of Ukraine bear the scars of relentless warfare, a stark reminder of the human cost of conflict. The conflict has claimed countless lives. Millions have been displaced, forced to flee their homes in search of safety and shelter, creating a humanitarian crisis of unprecedented scale. The impact extends far beyond the borders of Ukraine, sending shockwaves through the global economy and political landscape. Markets fluctuate wildly, and supply chains are disrupted, affecting everyday life worldwide. The international community grapples with the implications of this conflict. Protests erupt in cities around the world as people demand an end to the violence and a return to peace. The conflict has also exposed the fragility of peace in the 21st century. It serves as a stark reminder that peace, once taken for granted, can be shattered in an instant. It has underscored the urgent need for international cooperation. Diplomatic efforts are intensified, with leaders striving to find common ground and prevent further escalation. The world is looking for ways to de-escalate tensions and find a path towards a just and lasting peace. The hope is that through dialogue and mutual understanding, a resolution can be achieved, bringing an end to the suffering and paving the way for a brighter future. The situation on the ground in Ukraine remains volatile. The conflict has morphed into a war of attrition. Both sides are dug in, fiercely defending their positions. The eastern Donbas region has become the epicenter of the fighting. Russia continues its relentless assault on Ukrainian cities. Civilian infrastructure is often targeted. The human cost of the conflict is immeasurable. Hospitals, schools, and residential areas have been reduced to rubble. Ukrainian forces, bolstered by Western military aid, have mounted a staunch defense. They have managed to slow and, in some cases, repel Russian advances. However, the fighting continues to exact a heavy toll. The Russia-Ukraine conflict has brought to the forefront a new era of warfare. Both sides have increasingly relied on unmanned aerial vehicles, or drones. Drones have become a game-changer on the battlefield. Russia has used Iranian-made Shahed-136 drones. These drones have struck Ukrainian cities and energy infrastructure. Ukraine has utilized Turkish-made Bayraktar TB2 drones. These drones have proven effective against Russian tanks and armored vehicles. The use of drones has raised concerns about escalation. The potential for these weapons to inflict significant damage is undeniable. It has also highlighted the need for international regulations governing their use. As the conflict drags on, both sides have been forced to adapt their military strategies. The initial Russian blitzkrieg failed to achieve its objectives. Moscow has shifted its focus to the east and south of Ukraine. Ukraine, on the other hand, has adopted a more agile and mobile defense. They have effectively utilized hit-and-run tactics, exploiting weaknesses in Russian defenses. This strategy has proven surprisingly effective. The conflict has also seen leadership changes on both sides. Russia has replaced several top military commanders. Ukraine has seen the emergence of new military leaders. These individuals are playing a pivotal role in shaping the course of the war. Section 5. The West's Response, a delicate balancing act. The West has responded to the Russia-Ukraine conflict with unprecedented unity. This unity has been showcased through numerous high-level meetings and summits, where leaders have come together to strategize and coordinate their actions. NATO allies have provided Ukraine with billions of dollars in military aid. This aid has been crucial in bolstering Ukraine's defenses and ensuring that they have the necessary resources to withstand the ongoing aggression. This aid has included advanced weapon systems, intelligence sharing, and training. The provision of such sophisticated equipment and intelligence has significantly enhanced Ukraine's military capabilities. The United States has emerged as Ukraine's most crucial ally. President Joe Biden has been at the forefront, meeting with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and reaffirming the U.S.'s commitment to Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity. The Biden administration has provided billions in military and humanitarian assistance. This aid has not only been in the form of weapons, but also essential supplies and support for the Ukrainian people, who are facing immense hardships. The U.S. has also imposed crippling sanctions on Russia. These sanctions target key sectors of the Russian economy, aiming to weaken its ability to sustain the war effort and pressure it into negotiations. However, the West has been cautious about direct military intervention. While providing substantial support to Ukraine, NATO has refrained from deploying troops directly into the conflict, mindful of the risks of a broader war. The risk of escalation into a wider conflict with Russia is a major concern. Policymakers are acutely aware of the potential for the situation to spiral out of control, leading to a much larger and more devastating conflict. The balance between supporting Ukraine and avoiding a direct confrontation with Russia remains a delicate one. Diplomatic efforts continue in parallel with military support, as the West seeks to navigate this complex and volatile situation with caution and resolve. Section 6. International Perspectives, a Divided Global Stage. The Russia-Ukraine conflict has exposed deep divisions within the international community. This war has not only been a battleground for the two nations involved, but has also become a focal point for global political tensions. The conflict has brought to light the varying stances of different countries, revealing a fractured international landscape. While the West has condemned Russia's actions, other countries have adopted a more neutral stance. Western nations, particularly those in NATO, have been vocal in their opposition, imposing sanctions and providing support to Ukraine. This unified stance among Western countries contrasts sharply with the more reserved or neutral positions taken by other global players. Some, like China, have even offered tacit support for Moscow. China's strategic interests and its complex relationship with Russia have led it to a more cautious approach, avoiding outright condemnation while maintaining diplomatic ties. This has further complicated the global response to the conflict. The conflict has also highlighted the limitations of international institutions. The United Nations, which was established to foster international cooperation and prevent such conflicts, has struggled to mediate effectively. The inability to reach a consensus has underscored the challenges faced by these institutions in a polarized world. The United Nations Security Council, tasked with maintaining international peace and security, has been largely ineffective. The veto power held by its permanent members, including Russia, has often led to deadlock, preventing decisive action. This has raised questions about the relevance and effectiveness of the Security Council in addressing modern conflicts. Russia, as a permanent member, holds veto power. This power has been a significant factor in the Security Council's inability to take unified action against Russia's aggression. The use of the veto has highlighted the inherent flaws in the current structure of the United Nations. The conflict has had a profound impact on global geopolitics. It has reshaped alliances, influenced international policies, and altered the balance of power. The repercussions of this conflict are felt far beyond the borders of Russia and Ukraine, affecting global trade, security, and diplomatic relations. It has strained relations between Russia and the West to a breaking point. The imposition of sanctions, diplomatic expulsions, and the severing of economic ties have all contributed to a new era of tension reminiscent of the Cold War. This strain has made cooperation on other global issues increasingly difficult. It has also led to a realignment of alliances and partnerships. Countries are reevaluating their foreign policies and strategic alliances in light of the conflict. New partnerships are emerging, and old ones are being tested as nations navigate this complex and rapidly changing geopolitical landscape. Section 7. The Negotiation Table, a Distant Hope. Despite international pressure, a negotiated settlement to the Russia-Ukraine conflict remains elusive. Both sides have set preconditions that seem irreconcilable. The prospects for a diplomatic breakthrough appear dim. Ukraine insists on the restoration of its territorial integrity. They demand security guarantees from the West. Russia, on the other hand, demands Ukrainian neutrality and recognition of its annexation of Crimea. The international community has called for a ceasefire and the resumption of negotiations. However, mistrust runs deep. Neither side seems willing to make the concessions necessary for a lasting peace. Section 8. Potential futures, from stalemate to escalation. The Russia-Ukraine conflict has entered a dangerous phase. Several potential scenarios could unfold, each with profound implications for the region and the world. One scenario is a prolonged stalemate. The fighting could continue for months, if not years. This would result in continued human suffering and economic devastation. Another scenario is a negotiated settlement. However, this would likely involve painful compromises from both sides. The most dangerous scenario is a further escalation of the conflict. This could involve the use of chemical or even nuclear weapons. Such an event would have catastrophic consequences. Section 9. Conclusion: the urgent need for peace. The Russia-Ukraine conflict is a tragedy for all involved. It is a stark reminder of the human cost of war. The international community must redouble its efforts to find a peaceful resolution. The world cannot afford to stand by as the conflict continues. The risks of escalation are too great. The time for diplomacy is now. A just and lasting peace must